Welcome. Well, I've finally decided to take the plunge and make a YouTube video. And, for a while, the thing that prevented me from doing this was that I really didn't quite know what to talk about. I mean, there's plenty of great pipe presenters out there in the YouTube pipe community. Lots of fantastic tobacco reviews. I wanted to try to do something a little bit different, and one of the things that I really enjoy about the pipe hobby is finding old pipes and refurbishing them, restoring them, getting them back to usable, smokable condition. So I'm going to be trying to make some videos about that, and hopefully you'll find those of interest. But I thought I'd start out with something a bit more basic. There's a lot of really great tutorials out there on packing pipes and lighting, keeping lit, tamping. I haven't seen many, and I haven't searched for them, so maybe I'm just missing them. But I haven't seen many videos that actually explain the very important process of cleaning a pipe after you've smoked it. And I thought it might be a good idea to kind of review the method that I use to do that, and maybe give you a few pointers. Maybe if you see this and have better ways of doing it, you could comment and leave a few pointers for me or for others that are watching this. There's no right way to do, well, practically anything in the pipe smoking world, but certainly there are some things that are important, and one of those is to try to maintain your pipes properly and keep them as clean as you can. So I'm going to show you the method that's worked well for me. I've been smoking pipes for quite some time. I bought my first one, I believe it was in the late 1980s. So, it's going on, if not 30 years now. And this is the method that I've used pretty consistently over time. It's a method that was taught to me by some pipe smokers when I was first starting out, and I've pretty much used this. It's evolved a bit over time. I mean, I've added a bit to it, but I've used it pretty consistently, and it seems to work. So hopefully you'll find this useful. To start off with, this is a little billiard that I have that I finished smoking earlier tonight. This is actually a Lane Crown Achievement pipe that I bought, I don't know, maybe about 2 years ago. It was a deal where you buy the pipe and you get a free pound of Crown Achievement, which I think is a very nice tobacco. So I took advantage of that deal, and honestly, the pipe is okay. It's smokable. It's not a fantastic quality pipe, but I enjoy it. It's got some attractive grain patterns to it. A little bit of nice bird's eye in there. So the question is, how do we maintain these? And first off, I finished smoking this probably about 2 hours ago. And one of the things that I think is important, and that most people would agree with, is that after you finish smoking a pipe, let it cool down. Especially if you're taking it apart, the joint between the tenon joint here, between the bit and the shank of the pipe, you don't want to take that apart when the pipe's hot, simply because wood is a natural material that's going to react to heat and moisture, and it's going to expand and contract. Let it cool down, let it all come to equilibrium before you start pulling it apart. So this has had several hours to cool. I have not emptied it yet. I would probably do that sooner. I empty them typically soon after I finish smoking, but I left that because it is part of the cleaning process. And let me start off by introducing the tools. As you can see, I'm collecting some ash already. What you need to properly clean a pipe, and it's really pretty simple. You've probably got all of these things. First off, some sort of a pipe tool. I prefer these standard check tools. You've certainly seen these before, the little 3-piece tools. You've got a scoop cleaner type thing here, a tamper on the end that of course you're going to use all the time, and a little pick that sometimes is useful for opening up the airway or getting down if you've got too tight a pack to loosen up the tobacco. But for the most part, I use the tamper and I use the scoop when cleaning. The other things you're going to need are, if you're using the method that I use, something that you can wipe with. I've got a piece of paper towel here. A piece of tissue would be just as good. Anything that you can use to wipe off the tenon. And then you need pipe cleaners. And I like to use two different types. The brand that I like are these BJ Long pipe cleaners. And I prefer the tapered style. I just like to have a narrower end that I can use to get into spaces if needed. And I like to use both a regular sort of what I guess you would call fluffy pipe cleaner. So these are just sort of your standard pipe cleaners. And hopefully you can see that the one end down here is more narrow than this end, which is a bit thicker and fluffier. So, you know, if I've got a real narrow passage that I'm trying to get into, this works really well. If it's wider, especially if it's something like a corn cob, these wider ones work great. In fact, for a corn cob, I'll often double these over because the bore on those is quite wide. And I also like to use, almost always, a bristled pipe cleaner. And this is, again, a BJ Long tapered bristled cleaner. And it's going to be very difficult for you to see, but if you rub along these, there are these sort of sharp, bristly plastic bits in here that allow you to do some scrubbing as you're cleaning. Okay, so the pipe is, we finished smoking. Normally I would use an ashtray. I don't have one handy here in the shop, so I will use a lid of a old tobacco tin that I've got here. And we'll just use the scoop, and I'm just going to go in and gently loosen up that tobacco and any dottle that might be at the bottom, and just get that ash out. You don't want to ream it. We're not trying to scrape the walls per se. I'm just trying to sort of loosen things up and get the loose bits out. And that's about it. You can tap it lightly. You want to avoid knocking your pipe. So some people will, you'll see people sometimes take it and bang it. Sometimes you see these cork inserts in the ashtrays that people will bang it against, or even bang it against your hand. If you're going to do that, the danger, you know, the obvious danger is that you could wind up marring the rim, and that wouldn't be good. But there's actually a more significant danger, in that if you hold it back back here, like this, and you bang it, you're creating a lever, and you run the risk of cracking the shank. And it's actually surprisingly easy to break this tenon that sits inside the shank here, so snap the stem off flush, or to even break the briar. So try not to do this. If you have to for some reason, hold it like this and bang it rather than hammering like this. Okay, so with that done, we'll move the ash out of the way, and we'll move on to the cleaning process. First, I use the non-bristled pipe cleaner, introduce it to the stem without taking anything apart, and just bring that all the way down and try to get that to actually come through into the tobacco chamber. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that. Apologize, I haven't optimized the lighting here yet. Let me see if I can get a little flashlight here. See if I can actually get in there. There, you can sort of see that white line down there at the bottom. So that's the cleaner coming through. So it's actually gone all the way through into the tobacco chamber. And just move it up and down a bit. As I'm doing that, I'm easing back and forth along the edges of the walls back here, just trying to make sure I get everything nice and clean. And then I will pull this out, and you can see it's respectively dirty. And we'll put that aside. Now, if this is a straight pipe, that's usually pretty good, pretty easy to do. And people talk about pipes passing the cleaner test, which means before you buy a pipe, you try to put a pipe cleaner through and see if you can get it all the way into the tobacco chamber. And a lot of people think that that's absolutely essential, because if you don't have it going all the way through like that, you have to take it apart to clean it. And that's true, and that is potentially a problem. Because the more you take it apart, as I said, if you're not letting it cool down, there's a chance that you're going to loosen this tenon connection. But honestly, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've never had that happen. So if it's a bent pipe and I can't get it all the way through, what I'll do is I will, using this pipe cleaner, get it to the point where it will go, clean it the way I showed you, and then I remove the stem, or the bit rather, and I'll invert this and use the fluffy end to go in and clean out the tobacco chamber. And as you can see, that got some more stuff out. The bristled cleaner is what I use normally to clean that the shank of the pipe out and just sort of make sure that I've got all the gunky residue out of that. It just helps to scrub that out a bit, and it means there's going to be less time before your next thorough cleaning. And that's about it for this part. Now, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the towel to just wipe off the tenon. And as you'll see, that does tend to collect quite a bit of stuff. So we'll get that cleaned off. This pipe, by the way, had a stinger attached that I removed, and it's been smoking fine without it. And with that, we will now be able to reassemble the pipe. One thing that I was told some time ago, and I can't say for certain that this is true, but I was told to always insert the tenon. There's a little fleck of something on there. Always insert the tenon and rotate it in a clockwise fashion as you're putting it back in. The logic behind that is that these things are cut on a lathe, and the lathe is turning, and therefore there is a slight, potentially a slight threading effect on this, and turning it clockwise will take advantage of that and allow it to sink in without any undue pressure. Now, the truth is that might just be sort of an old husband's tale, if you will. I'm not sure, but that's the way I've always done it, and it's worked just fine. And that's about it. I mean, if you want, you can take your hopefully clean piece of paper towel and just give it a rub, polish it up a bit before you put it back in your pipe rack, and you're good to go. Now, this of course is a daily cleaning, or after every smoke. It's not a deep cleaning, and that's something that I would like to cover in more detail in another video. This pipe is not really yet in need of a deep cleaning. It doesn't have a significant amount of cake buildup. I'll usually do a deep cleaning twice a year, where I'll ream the pipe and go through the process I just showed you, but include some alcohol to make sure that I'm really getting out any residue. And I have some special tools that I'll use if things are getting a bit too occluded in the air pathways, to kind of ream those out. But for the most part, if you do what I just said after each smoke, and you are pretty careful about that, you do a cleaning about twice a year with some alcohol and a bit more thorough cleaning, and you keep the cake down to a correct size, you won't really need to do a lot of serious deep cleaning on your pipes. And they will smoke a lot better when they're maintained properly and cleaned. So I hope you found that useful. I will try to follow up with some more videos like this. Again, I'll try to cover the deep cleaning process because I'm just getting into a point where I have to go through my pipe rotation and ream some of the tobacco chambers. So I'll try to show you some of that as I do it. And I will also, as I get old estate pipes that need to be worked on and refurbished, I'll try to make some videos of those, show you the steps involved, and you can sort of see a pipe go from a flea market find to something that you would be happy to keep in your pipe rack. So that's about it. I hope you found this useful. Let me know in the comments if you did, and I will look forward to seeing you again soon.